And welcome back. Thank you for staying with us. And we're welcoming into studio right now the Water and Irrigation Cabinet Secretary, Eugene Wamalwa. Thank you for coming in this evening.
Thank you.
You've got a rather huge docket, so we're going to try and pack it up into three pieces. First, we'll talk about irrigation, and then move on to water supply, etc. And when it comes to irrigation, the Galana project is really seen as a flagship Jubilee project. This is the project that should deliver Kenya from food insecurity, and yet it appears not to have covered too much ground with the first term of the government coming to an end. Why is that? Why does there seem to be some delays?
I think, first of all, I want to assure Kenyans that the project is on track. It's a very ambitious project, the first of its kind undertaken since our independence. And it is a project that is a flagship project for the Jubilee government. And once realized, would put Kenya on the world map of the food insecure nations of the world. And Kenya would join a few countries in the world that have done well, over 1 million acres each. In Africa, on the African continent, we have Sudan, the Gezira irrigation scheme. We also have Egypt up north that are doing over 1.5 million acres. And of course, we have China and all those big irrigators who are doing over 2 million acres each. So we are well on track in terms of implementation of the project. We were first doing a model farm of 10,000 acres. But before we complete the entire 10,000, we did at least 500 to first test the suitability of various varieties of seed based on the soil samples that had been taken. In the first harvest, which we completed in November, we were able to harvest over 8,000 bags each. And we had
what?
Of maize.
Per what size of land?
We were looking at 500 acres. We were testing the various varieties. There were about 13 of them. There was some that yielded as high as 39 acres. I mean 39 bags per acre. We had some that did poorly, that yielded as low as 10 bags per acre. Currently, we have the second crop now that is zeroing in on the top 6 varieties. This crop will be ready for harvesting in February. And we are hoping that this will now give us the highest yielding varieties, that we can now open up the 10,000 acres beginning March. And once we complete that, we are going to open up the place for investors. Right.
Now, initially, the project was to cost 14 billion shillings, and you revised that downwards to about half the amount.
Yes.
What had informed the initial costing of 14 billion, and what informs your new decision to about 7.5 billion?
When I took this docket, there was a lot of concern about the costing of the entire project. In fact, there were murmurs about allegations of corruption. There were issues as to the viability of the project. And I remember during the vetting before Parliament, I promised that once I take the docket, I would form a task force to address these concerns. And that we've been able to do through an interministerial committee that we put in place between my ministry, that of Agriculture, the National Treasury, the State Law Office, and the Presidential Delivery Unit. We reviewed the entire contract, and we found that almost half of the contract had components that had nothing to do with irrigation. Actually, the essentials that were there connected to irrigation were just about less than half that amount. The larger component was to go towards milling. We're supposed to set up a milling plant. We're also supposed to ensure operation and maintenance of this plant for many years to come. So we reviewed
Which is something now you believe private sector can do?
Yes, we believe it's not really the business of government to do business. We believe this should be left to the private sector, and my team really looked at the whole thing, and we said we've gone down this road before, and our past experience as a country wasn't very successful. You remember we had the Kenya Milling Corporation, where we thought we could actually mill ourselves, and by so doing control the prices of unga, bring them down. That experiment didn't work, and we thought we shouldn't go down the same path. So my team had reviewed the whole thing. We removed the components of milling, the operation and maintenance, and that takes off almost over half of the contract price. So what we want to tell Kenyans tonight is that with the new roadmap that we have placed before Parliament, we are sure that we can deliver this project with less than half the original costing.
And by saying delivering the project, you mean all 10,000?
All 10,000. What we are saying is that originally we were supposed to do it by March, but because of the changes that we put in place, we are going to complete this by September.
Okay, Parliament says that already 7 billion has been used. Half of the initial budget has been pumped into 500 hectares. So 9,500,
yes.
Nothing has happened on that, but already 7 billion has been used. Is that correct?
That is not correct, and in fact those were some of the concerns by the parliamentarians. When I appeared before them, we took them through what has been paid so far, and there are about 5 certificates based on the 14 billion contract, which have been paid, amounting to about 2.5 billion. The second thing that I assured Parliament is that already through cooperation with the Israeli government, we had secured funding. The Israeli government was not only transferring technology here, they were also providing financing through the Bank Leumi of Israel, and already that facility is secured. So the 2.5 billion paid will have a balance of about 5 billion, which we are not going to take from our national treasury, because the Israelis have already provided that. So we will be able to complete this project without having to ask treasury for more money. So this is already secured, and we want to assure Kenyans we will be able to complete this by September. After that, we want to open up this place. We have about 500,000 acres we want to open up immediately, and we've already advertised an expression of interest. And I'm very pleased to say tonight that the response has been overwhelming, both by international investors as well as local investors.
And yet the claims also again by the Parliamentary Committee on Agriculture is that, you know, single sourcing was done, the entire project has been awarded to a single Israeli company. Was that purely for the 10,000 hectares, or was that cumulative of everything you want to do in Galana?
First of all, to undertake a project of this magnitude, it had never happened before. And we had to do pre-feasibility studies, and this was done through open tender, and the Israeli company that won that tender, that carried out the research. At the end of the day, after that, we had an MOU between the Kenya government and the Israeli government. So we had a G2G arrangement with the Israeli government, where they were going to provide the necessary expertise as well as finance. And after that, they are also providing a grant of over 3 billion for training, so that as we increase our acreage under irrigation to 1 million acres, we must equally build local capacity. So this is going to be done through the grant that has been given to us. Every year for the next 6 years, beginning this February, we will be taking 100 of young qualified Kenyans to Israel for training, so that they are able, once we have this 1 million acre farm, we have the capacity to actually be able to maintain it. We will also be having Israeli experts coming to carry out training in our local institutions, particularly the KEWI. We have 3 campuses, one in Kisumu, one in Shakariga, and one here in Nairobi. So we'll be having these experts coming.
And so just to conclude that, so that I'm clear, this particular company has only been awarded 10,000.
Yes, just the 10,000 model
and they will be open to bid for more?
Yes, that is going to be open. And already we have international and local investors who are interested. And we want to encourage Kenyans with what we have done in Galana so far. This was an uninhabited area that was not developed, but the crop that we have seen from there is one of the best crops we've had in Kenya. And by doing what we're doing now, we're opening up a second bread basket in Kenya, in the coast region. I come from the traditional bread basket, the North Rift. I know there were issues when I took up this ministry, because I've been a maize farmer myself, and their concern was that, are you going to drive us out of the market? I want to assure farmers in the North Rift and the Rift Valley, the western region, that the objective of Galana is really to address the food deficit that exists in our country. Since independence, we have not been able to produce enough food because we rely on rain-fed agriculture. What we want to bring about through this project is a paradigm shift from rain-fed agriculture to irrigated agriculture. There's no reason why we should be importing over 250,000 metric tons of sugar from outside. We import over 10 million bags of maize every year. We import rice from Pakistan when we have the potential to produce enough rice, sugar as well as maize in this country.
But I suppose the question is at what cost? And those are some of the challenges that Parliament are throwing to yourself. The yield per acre, Parliament claimed was about, I think, 10 bags last estimate I saw. For the lowest variety, but the highest was 39. Okay. This was the 13, but now with the 6, we are hoping for a higher yield, but also through mechanized and new technology, we are able to produce more for less. Like what we have shown, and we showed Parliament this, that the cost of producing a 90 kg bag of maize in Galana is about 846 shillings. So it will mean that from Galana, we can actually put unga on Kenyan shelves at less than 100 shillings. In fact, where the calculation we've been given is about 84 shillings. And when do you expect you'll be, doing enough land to have that significant impact on the food prices? We are looking at September, when we have the 10,000 model farm ready. We are looking at this September. This September, and once the investors come in, we are going to increase production. But this will close the deficit. It will not drive the maize farmers out of business. You're saying this September we can expect unga at 100 shillings? This September we expect the model farm to be ready, and we expect to start seeing prices of unga going down once this production is realized. We want to use the economy of scale, the new technology to lower the cost of production. Once we do that, we should also be able to bring down the prices of unga. Because we go to the same supermarket. I want to go to that figure because I go to the supermarket as well. Yes, and it doesn't matter whether you are a Mheshimiwa or a Mwananchi. You go to Ukwala. Everybody wants food at an affordable price. Yeah, you go to Ukwala, you go to Nakumat. We go to the same supermarket with the guy who comes from Kibera or Lavington. The same supermarket you go to. So the price is the same. But we must see how that can be done. Because now, freedom from hunger is a human right under the new constitution. So it is also the fundamental duty of the state to ensure that Kenyans are free of hunger. And this is the primary objective of Galana. This is how we're going to do it, through irrigation, because we have failed to achieve it otherwise through rain-fed agriculture since independence. So we want to do things differently. Okay, I beg your pardon, CS. Allow me to move on very quickly so that I can also get to our audience feedback, specifically to the question of water. Water harvesting is one of the things that you've said you're very interested in doing. Money has been set aside by the Treasury for the same. We just had El Nino. Was any water harvested? Yes, in the last financial year, we had about 3.5 billion that we used in creating small dams and water ponds. We did about 710 of them. This created storage of over 16 million cubic meters of water. Currently, we are undertaking a similar project that will see us do more dams, particularly in nasal areas, and more water ponds. This is going to again create storage. But we have huge dams that we have also put in place. There are those that we are developing in different parts of the country. We have in Pokot, the Sioi Dam. In Nakuru, we have Itare. In Coast, Kwale, we are doing Mwache Dam. And in Ukambani, Makueni will soon be launching the Twake Dam. When we do all these dams, we are going to increase storage. But we are also, through legislation, creating a water harvesting and storage authority. When I came in, I have followed very strongly the issue of strengthening legislation. The water bill was passed in Parliament, but we are hoping and we are asking our senators to speed up the passing of the water bill in the Senate. This is what is going to create the water harvesting authority. This is where the future lies. We have a lot of rain, but it all runs off to the ocean. Did all the El Nino rain run off to the ocean? Unfortunately, we tapped a bit of it, as I said, because of the increased storage. Okay. And do you have a figure? I can say that we are looking at upwards of 16 million, almost 20 million. We could store because of the existing, but we have dams that are not complete yet. We have Uma in Kitui. We have Badasa in Marsabit. These are areas we want to speed up. We complete these dams and increase our storage capacity. And what do you do at the household level? Because, you know, it rains at the household level. How do you empower Kenyans perhaps outside of, well, even in the city, because they're complaining about, access to water, to be able to harvest water themselves at a household level? We are sensitizing Kenyans to develop this culture of harvesting rainwater. But we want to go further.
and included in our legislation, so that even as we are putting up structures, it will be a requirement that there must be this element of water harvesting included in the building. So these are areas we're going to cooperate with our county governments to ensure there is legislation in place, in town planning, and all this we must do together to increase our capacity in storage of water.
And let me just tell you about some of the areas that our audience has been writing in and complaining about. Tena Estate in Nairobi, water supply in Rongo, Migori County is dim and literally minute. Another is saying water in Gishugu constituencies are mirage in spite of our location next to Mount Kenya. Another is saying that we have cartels messing with water in most Nairobi city estates. Because we're out of time, I won't ask you to respond to each one, but what I will do is pass on a list of all these complaints to yourself with the hope that you will act on it, and we can follow up with the hashtag Sunday Live in a couple of weeks and see if you're able to resolve some of these issues that clearly Kenyans still have. Finally, you know, your entry into the cabinet was also, you know, controversial to some extent, because you are somewhat a seasoned ex-politician, maybe you still have it in the wings, and they say that that particular skill has been one that is missing from the current cabinet. Do you think, you know, your previous experience in politics makes you perhaps more seasoned to hold a more technical position, a technocrat's position?
I think it gives me some advantage because at the end of the day, as a CS, you're implementing policy. You're implementing the Jubilee Manifesto, and that interaction with the people is very, very important in terms of you know, experience in politics. Politics is all about dealing with the problems of people. The decisions we make are political, but of course there are also limitations that we can't be partisan, and but we want to assure Kenyans that what Parliament is suggesting, that we might need to make changes so that we do not have to limit the prerogative of the president to appoint the best Kenyans qualified. If they're in Parliament, he should be given a free hand to actually appoint from Parliament, so that we don't need to have a by-election like we're doing in Kericho, in Malindi. So we might have the best CSs inside Parliament, and the law should allow that. I'm
absolutely out of time, but so whose problems do you hope to solve next? Is it the people of Trans Nzoia, or is it Nairobi as governor in 2017?
I think I want to solve the problems of the people of all the 47 counties as the Minister for Water. And when come 2017, we'll cross that bridge when we get there. As I have indicated clearly, 2017, I will be back in the political trenches with my brother and friend Uhuru and William Ruto. We will be back, and I'll be able to announce next year what seat I'm going for. But for now, I'm going to work for all Kenyans, and I'm going to be the
and then you'll pick between Trans Nzoia and
all the 47 counties. We'll cross that bridge when we get there.
Thank you,
Thanks, Anne. Thank you very much.
Lovely chatting with you this evening. We're taking a short break on Sunday Live. We're back with more after this. Don't go.